Welcome to The Explainer, where we break down the data behind the headlines. Today, we're tackling the GTA housing market. You've got the official story, which sounds great, clashing with what's really happening on the ground, falling sales and soaring inventory. So let's dig in and figure out the real story. So you see this headline from the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board, right? More choice, greater affordability for buyers. And you think, wow, finally. I mean, it sounds like a dream come true, especially for anyone who's been stuck on the sidelines for years. A real sigh of relief. But is that really what's going on? Is that the whole story? Well, the source material we're digging into today says not so fast. It argues that this rosy picture is frankly a bit misleading, and that if you look just under the surface, you'll find a market with some really big problems. And check out this phrase they use, structural deterioration. Whoa, that's a heavy term. It's not just talking about a little dip or a market correction. It's saying the very foundations are shaky. So, okay, let's jump into the actual numbers from October 2025 and see what's really going on here. All right, first up, the data. And what this is going to show us is this massive growing disconnect between supply and demand. Basically, how many homes are for sale versus how many people are actually out there buying them. Okay, so first let's talk about demand, or I guess the lack of it. Home sales actually dropped by nearly 10% compared to last year. To put that in perspective, this was one of the weakest Octobers for sales we've seen since way back in 2010. So yeah, that's a pretty big red flag right there. And while all that's happening, while demand is falling off a cliff, look at what's going on with supply. Active listings, they shot up past 27,800. That's a 17% increase in just 1 year. It's simple, right? Fewer people are buying and way more people are trying to sell. I mean, just look at this. It really puts that inventory explosion into context. We're not talking about a small bump here. This is the highest level of inventory for an October that TRREB has ever published. Ever. The market is just absolutely flooded with homes for sale. So you don't have to be an economist to know what happens next, right? When you have this much supply and so little demand, prices have to give. And they have. The average selling price is down more than 7% year over year. And this isn't just happening in one little corner of the market. Oh no, this weakness is everywhere. The main benchmark price is down. Detached houses in the 416, down over 9%. And even the condo market, which you'd think would hold up better, is getting hit hard with big sales drops and softening prices. So here's the bottom line. Demand has totally collapsed, while supply just keeps on growing. You've got the official report talking about more choice for buyers, but the data is practically screaming, we have way too many houses. So what gives? Why are these two stories so wildly different? Well, that brings us right to the heart of this analysis. The source material argues that everyone focusing on affordability is completely missing the point. The real issue here isn't the price. It's something much deeper, a total crisis of confidence. And this really lays it out perfectly. On one side, you've got TRREB's logic. Hey, lower prices plus lower mortgage payments, that's a win for buyers. But then you look at the reality our source is pointing to. Those same lower prices are just a symptom of dying demand, and buyers are terrified to jump in because they think prices have even further to fall. This quote just nails it. The issue is not simply buyer opportunity. It is the erosion of purchasing conviction. Think about that. A lower price doesn't matter one bit if you don't believe in the future value of what you're buying. And there's a term for this crucial psychological piece of the puzzle. Purchasing conviction. So what is that? Well, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a buyer's confidence. Confidence in their future income, sure, but also confidence in the future value of the house itself. It's that gut feeling you need before you make the biggest financial decision of your life. It's knowing your job is safe and feeling sure that the home you buy today won't be worth, $100,000 less next year. And with all the talk about unemployment and people missing mortgage payments, you can see why that conviction is just disappearing. Okay, so we have this crisis of confidence. We have a flood of houses for sale. What does this all mean for you? For the actual buyers, sellers, and even the people making the rules. Let's break down the advice. All right, if you're a buyer, listen up. Yes, there's opportunity out there, but you have to be disciplined. Just because there's less competition doesn't automatically mean you're getting a good deal. The key takeaway here is that the discount you see today might get even bigger tomorrow. So you've got to watch those inventory numbers and keep an eye on the job market. Now for the sellers. The message is a little more direct. you have to be realistic. The party's over. That amazing price your neighbor got back in 2021, that's ancient history. The number of qualified, confident buyers is shrinking. So if you price your home based on memory instead of the current market, you're not going to sell. You're just going to relist and relist. And finally, what about the policymakers? Their whole world has been turned upside down. For years, all we heard was, we need more supply, build, build, build. But now the problem isn't a lack of homes, it's a lack of buyers for the homes we have. So just building more could actually backfire. The real job now is to stabilize things and try to rebuild that confidence. So that's the big question, isn't it? Where does the market go from here? If lower prices aren't enough to stop the bleeding, what will it take for things to finally turn around? Well, the source material leaves us with a really powerful, kind of sobering final thought. Markets do not bottom on hope. They bottom on exhaustion. And that's really the whole story right there. A real recovery doesn't start because people are feeling hopeful. It starts when sellers are just too tired to hold out for yesterday's prices and finally give in. And based on everything we've looked at today, it really feels like the GTA market, well, is just not exhausted yet, which leaves us with one big question. How much more pain is there to come before it finally hits bottom?